Damn, so I just watched Joker, Folie à Deux, and it was hilariously boring. It seems like sequels to pieces of media that everyone loves so much tend to be not as great as people hoped. The Last of Us Part 2 comes to mind. I just want to say for the record that I am not a fan of the first Joker movie to begin with. At least after a couple of rewatches. The film was so self-indulgent and belligerent with its rather sympathetic message on the middle class, and the idea of the public rising against the media, just became too bleak for me to even watch again. I have also become aware of director Todd Phillips's comments on the original movie, stating that the film was an attack on woke left who he thought don't like his previous work because you just can't do good comedy anymore. Firstly, nobody liked the last two Hangover movies, not because they got poor reviews but because they were not funny. I realize that people are not becoming sensitive to edgy comedy, they are becoming aware that the comedy that you made was just funny, offensive jokes withheld standing. Comedy is based on misery, and all the comedy I see nowadays are just comedians screaming about the thing they hate. If that is comedy today, then stop the short bus, I want to get off. I mean, be honest with me, do you seriously want to see more shitty Rob Schneider comedies like Daddy-Daughter Trip? I don't. So imagine my surprise when the same tactic Todd used to attack hecklers of his films with his first Joker, now applies to the fans when he made Joker 2. It seems like I'm not the only one who is sick of Joker. Joker, Folie à Deux plunges us back into the chaotic mind of Arthur Fleck, now the infamous Joker, confined to Arkham Asylum. As he is placed on trial for the murders he committed in the last movie, he forms a twisted bond with Harleen Quinzel, a prisoner captivated by his madness. As their relationship intensifies, she descends into her own psychosis. Together, they embark on a dangerous dance of delusion and criminality, their shared madness blurring the lines between reality and fantasy. With musical numbers amplifying their emotional turmoil, the film explores their relationship and the consequences of Arthur's actions. The story was subpar. The movie is basically a prison/courtroom drama with the Joker, and they quite frankly don't do anything new with this structure. Yet Arthur is trialed for the murders of the last movie, and it was pretty interesting to see familiar faces make a return to this film. I didn't expect Zazie Beetz to return. The dwarf returning was pretty interesting. There are scenes with characters talking to the Joker and how his mind and his performance seem to be all over the place. Arthur using his Joker persona to turn his trial into a kangaroo court. These ideas are great on paper, unfortunately, it is executed very sloppily. Especially if you count on the abuse Arthur sustains throughout the film, and for when you account for what happens in the ending, which I am not going to spoil. I'm not the kind of guy to get angry at the cruel treatment Arthur goes through in this film, because in the context of the film, he pretty much deserves it, even if the audience doesn't think so. The film is obviously cluing us into his ultimate fate in the movie. The score remains ominous even when he's getting his ass handed to him by the guards. So why should I feel bad for him? The guards are just doing their job, and Arthur is not making it easy for them because he is channeling his performance on them. Now, I did have an issue with the story, and it is its pacing. Well, it isn't as bad as people have made it out, but it takes an awful long time to get things going at times. The scenes during the trial are funny because they are obviously trying to take the situation so seriously that it ends up becoming very bleak for me to even care. They don't do anything special or unique with this concept, in the same vein as, say, My Cousin Vinny or Pink Floyd's The Wall does. It's basically just a Joker version of Liar Liar, and that's just not interesting. Again, this is all centered on Arthur's arc in the movie, and quite frankly it doesn't really work. This character study of a lonely Sigma becoming infatuated with love for the first time is not a new thing for Hollywood, but it shows. This script almost reaches levels of Saltburn's writing at times. The dialogue is not very good, and some of the lines the actors say sound like they're cracking. Particularly Lady Gaga's lines seem to sound high at certain pitches, even when she's singing and whispering there seems to be a voice crack. Is that bad acting? Beats me, but it definitely caught my attention. At least the editing remains consistent for the most part. The cinematography is good and appropriately filmed. Like the best part about these films is how well it's shot. There wasn't a single frame in the movie that looked out of place or that it wasn't consistent. There are some interesting lighting effects. And the musical sequences are shot well. I guess I should segue into the music portion of the film. Yes, the movie is a straight-up jukebox. Musical, and whether that's your cup of tea or not is not really my concern. Some of my favorite movies are full-blown musicals. It's an acquired preference for sure, but musicals are used to convey emotions and grandeur. Joker and Harley sing songs in otherwise imaginary sequences that have licensed song placements in them, and hardly any one of them sounds like an original beat. And it's not like hearing the Joker sing in Batman media isn't an uncommon thing. He has sung in games like Arkham Knight, and in the Killing Joke adapted movie. It's just part of his chaotic nature, so I have no problem with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker singing as well. Heck, I thought that was a great idea. The only problem with it is that the songs and the imaginary sequences that take place feel dramatically out of place. It got to the point where it almost reminded me of SIA's awful autism movie, Music. And it becomes a problem when your film goes full music with the types of story beats that feature a man on the verge of death row. I'm not blaming Lady Gaga for essentially making this movie a vehicle for her music career. It's Lady Gaga. I'm blaming the filmmakers for not committing to the idea of a musical drama that is focused on making us, the audience, feel a sort of sympathy for a character we weren't supposed to feel sorry for in the place. Maybe put us into the mind of Arthur and have him do introspective soliloquies or something. No, these are all done very randomly, and aside from a few pieces of poetic storytelling, the opening animated scene and the late night show sequence were the only notable parts. Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck. He is the highlight of the film. He is committed to his performance, and quite honestly he carries the film. The prison sequences where he struggles to maintain social interaction is very familiar to Shawshank Redemption. That's not on account that the film is stealing ideas that were done before, but it does inflict that memory. Again, it is interesting to see him go from social awkward loner to Sigma attention loudmouth, showing his rather eccentric nature unleashed. His infatuation with Harley and longing for freedom. His character is just juggling around a bunch of things. Harley is a little forgettable, sadly. Maybe it's because I'm used to the usual depiction of Harley Quinn. I know not everyone likes her, believe me, but if anything, Harleen is just not as crazy or erratic as Arthur. There's obviously a hint of Stockholm and infatuation with each other, but it's a deviation to Harley's background in the comics. In the animated series, their relationship is an abusive one. Obviously they didn't commit to that part of the dynamic here in the movie. Lady Gaga is, alright. Again, she voice cracks as she whispers or mumbles, and that was distracting. Nitpicks aside, she doesn't seem fleshed out enough. Her character hinges on being in love and influenced by the Joker. She manipulates him into firing his lawyer, and by the end she just seems to snap out of that trance with no resounding build-up. All the other characters are fine and get the job done. It was nice to see some characters return and see some new ones introduced, like Harvey Dent, even if his role amounts to a reference in his last shot. If you didn't like Bruce Wayne's cameo in the last movie, you'll know what I mean. Speaking of which, no one seems to mention the death of Thomas Wayne in this story, considering that he played somewhat of a big part in Joker's televised rampage. They all just seem to forget about that. I also didn't like the last 15 minutes of the film, not for the reasons you think, but for how rushed it felt. It basically just speed runs to the end without so much as slowing down. It's like they ran out of time to get the second draft of the script revised to see if it makes sense. Other than that, overall, Joker, Folie à Deux is a flawed and very sloppily made sequel to a film admittedly I was never a fan of in the first place. This is not my Joker. I have grown to hate the "we live in a society" meme for that reason. I will always have my Joker, which is the Mark Hamill version in the animated series, and any other Joker in Batman media, even if one is portrayed as a literal womanizer. Joker in the comics has always been one to watch the world burn. He is obsessed with breaking people, even Batman to his level. He kills for fun, and also, he's a criminal mastermind. That's my Joker. Not this depressed, incel and angry man who was shunned by society, all because his mum beat him. I don't know why he has been sensationalized as he was, but still. The sequel does something interesting with this journey. It's at the behest of some characters, musical sequences that don't add enough to the story, and a very rushed and unsatisfying ending. Perhaps Todd Phillips was ashamed with how the first Joker turned out and wanted to shut down all the things that made him loved in the first place. Honestly, we won't know for sure. Maybe he does hate the fans, maybe he had an idea. Who cares? The movie was boring. The use of a French subtitle is a hilarious attempt to be Arthur's. Thank God it bombed. I'd rather wait for the Batman 2. 4 out of 10. Let me know, comment below, like, subscribe, what your opinion on this film. Or thanks for watching, see you later, bye.